The time by Sagicor is
7 p.m.
CVM News at 7 Wednesday headlines, courtesy of Heart NSDA Trust, Jamaica's Human Development Agency.
Tonight in CVM News at 7, 5 dead, several injured in accident on PJ Patterson Highway. Mackenzie announces measures to reduce shelter population. New lifeline for West, housing business relief fast track. Well, in the business report, the Cygnus Group launches Hurricane Relief and Rebuild Initiative. And later on in sports, Malden High withdraws from Issa da Costa Cup competition.
CVM News at 7 Wednesday headlines, courtesy of Heart NSDA Trust, Jamaica's Human Development Agency.
Alright guys, can we get the lead story host on set please?
CVM News at 7 Wednesday, courtesy of
Sagicor, building trust for generations.
Celebrating 55 years.
From Kingston, Jamaica, this is CVM News at 7. It's Wednesday, November 26, 2025. I'm Nika Lewis. Thanks for having joined us. Up first this evening, 5 people are confirmed dead and more than a dozen seriously injured after a minibus crash on the PJ Patterson Highway sometime after 3 o'clock Wednesday afternoon. Head of the Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch, Dr. Gary Mackenzie, told CVM News the Toyota Hiace bus was traveling toward Kingston. The incident happened in the vicinity of the Vineyard Toll Plaza.
The police investigations have revealed that on or about 3 p.m. today, a Toyota Hiace motor truck was traveling easterly along the PJ Patterson Highway towards Kingston. We understand that approximately 20 persons were aboard. On reaching the vicinity of Old Harbour or the Sharper Lane area, the vehicle verged to the left, went off the roadway and overturned. As a result of that, several of the passengers suffered very serious injuries, as well as the vehicle was very badly damaged. The persons were taken to the hospital. 5 of them were pronounced dead, 3 males and 2 females. The police investigations are continuing.
Meanwhile, local government minister Desmond Mackenzie says the number of people remaining in shelters should see a significant reduction by the end of this week as the government rolls out new initiatives to fast-track relocation. At a special media briefing on Wednesday, the minister confirmed that at least 3 shelters have already been closed, but with the schools set to reopen, there are growing concerns. Akeem Orit tells us more.
With schools expected to reopen soon, the local government ministry is moving to reduce the number of people still living in shelters following Hurricane Melissa. Minister Desmond Mackenzie says several initiatives are underway and results should be seen within days. So far, at least 3 shelters have been closed. But as some schools are preparing to reopen, the minister admits pressing concerns remain.
The major issue I have, Minister Dixon, is the shelter in Trelawney that occupy where the infirmary, which was totally destroyed, occupies a significant part of the school. Later on this afternoon, we'll be inspecting some prefabricated solutions that we intend to, over the next 2 weeks, to install in Trelawney that will house the almost 130 persons which are required to occupy the infirmary.
The minister also responded to concerns about homelessness. He notes provisions are being made for those in need, but is urging Jamaicans not to exploit the system.
The SDC did a survey on the homeless population, and we noticed that a number of persons who are going out pretending that they are homeless are not homeless people, and they go out just to get the food. We do have a difficulty in providing support for those levels of persons, but when they go out, they are counted in the data, and therefore it creates a problem for us in providing adequately.
Another major challenge, garbage collection. With leptospirosis cases on the rise, Minister Mackenzie says the health of garbage collectors is now at risk and is urging the country to exercise patience.
People bawling, they don't see them. And where them there with the trucks. Remember, we have to ensure that they have the adequate gears to go out there to collect this level of waste. It's not the normal commercial or residential waste we're talking about. And I'm saying to the country, treat these men and women with respect.
As recovery efforts continue, attention now turns to ensuring safety, both in classrooms and on the streets. Akeem Oret, CVM News.
Relief is underway for Jamaicans in the western end of the island as the National Housing Trust is rolling out a suite of measures to help hundreds of displaced residents rebuild their homes. And it's not just families getting support. The business sector is set to benefit from a major boost from the Development Bank of Jamaica. Amoy Harriet has the details.
Over 156,000 homes were damaged by Hurricane Melissa. Of that number, some 24,000 were completely destroyed. That's 24,000 families now grappling with the reality of having to rebuild their lives from the ground up. But they're being promised that rebuilding won't be as daunting. The National Housing Trust NHT says it's currently in the process of obtaining 2,500 of the first 5,000 semi-permanent housing units that will be made available to Jamaicans. The units form part of the government's Rapid Housing Deployment Initiative and will benefit a wider group of Jamaicans, not only NHT contributors. Dwayne Burbick is Assistant General Manager of Corporate Communications and Public Affairs at the NHT.
We're looking at setting up these units on lands owned by the NHT. So our construction and development team, we're currently assessing the status of lands, especially in the St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, Hanover areas, that belt. And we're looking at where we had plans for housing development, and there may already exist some amount of supporting infrastructure for sewage, for water already, to see how quickly we can finish that infrastructure and have those units set up, and then look at other lands that the NHT has.
As for the cost,
we are currently in the procurement process, so we do not have finalized numbers as yet, and that's procurement. We are currently assessing over 40 proposals for the modular units, and we also have to do a procurement exercise for the infrastructure works as well. So the final cost to the customer will include both components, so we do not want to prejudice that exercise at this stage by releasing our estimates that we are working with. Suffice to say, if affordability is a question, the customer would be able to benefit from the NHT's grants and subsidies.
Those grants include a $500,000 disaster relief grant and a $3.5 million hurricane relief loan with an interest rate of 2% with up to 20 years to repay. Mr. Burbick says there's also a peril insurance arrangement.
We are mindful, however, that some individuals are not back to any sense of normalcy just yet. And so we have mobilized our team. We have an NHT mobile unit that is now going out into our communities, into these affected areas, and are bringing the services directly to the people who are affected.
And while homeowners are getting help to rebuild, the business sector is also being thrown a lifeline. Cabinet has signed off on a $10 billion recovery fund from the Development Bank of Jamaica, DBJ. Dr. David Lowe is managing director.
The funding is broken into 3 key phases and stages of deployment. The first is a $1 billion Jamaican dollar fund available to all of the AFIs and MFIs, which are our partners in the financial sector. And they have immediate access to this $1 billion fund, which is part of DBJ's current balance sheet. The second phase, which was approved at Cabinet this week, is $3 billion, which is a further support for the engagement, which I will take you through in terms of how we'll be supporting Jamaican businesses. Thereafter, there's a further commitment of $7 billion Jamaican dollars.
Amoy Harriet, CVM News.
The government of Jamaica will be loaning the Jamaica Public Service Company JPSCO $150 million to help expedite its restoration efforts in several communities still in the dark following Hurricane Melissa. Energy Minister Darrell Vaz shared how this move could redound to the benefit of taxpayers and all parties involved without stalling the soon-to-be updated license arrangements. The JPS's current license expires in 2 years. The GOJ considered not to renew under the existing terms, reminding had the government not responded with a position by July 2025, automatically the JPS would have gotten a 10-year extension. But why is this critical to note now? The JPS has 2 years on their license and must raise funds to restore power in short order following the hurricane. Energy Minister Darrell Vaz says there are several proposals, but shares the one they decided upon.
But based on the fact that we need restoration as a country in the shortest possible time, the government of Jamaica has agreed to loan the JPS $150 million United States dollars on the basis that they will use that money, which is estimated at $75 million a month, to restore the entire grid, save and except for any special area that may not be reachable, but the major areas by the end of January, latest early February.
He says the JPS had suggested that the earliest restoration time for the worst affected areas would be between April and May 2026, on top of which he says they wanted an extended license. However, the minister reasons time is of the essence.
5 years with an interest rate to be negotiated by the Ministry of Finance, which I'm sure will be a reasonable interest rate, because the higher the interest rate is the more it's going to pass on to the consumer. And we are cognizant of that. However, they can pay as early as 2 years. Why? Because 2 years the license expires. They'll either have a renewed license or they won't have a license. If they have a license, they can attract financing. And if they don't have a license, the government has already indicated to them, based on our July 2025 letter, that we are prepared to acquire the assets of the Jamaica Public Service, which means that our money is protected fully. So there is no risk.
He went further to explain the unique arrangements the government has crafted, adding the JPS has committed that with the funds, they could have hundreds more linesmen working to restore power in the areas hardest hit.
It is the best win-win situation that a government could negotiate, because if we are to wait until April or May, which could be in June, depending on what happens, then I don't know what would happen. I can't say what would happen, because it wouldn't be pretty. But most importantly, Madam Speaker, is that originally the estimates for the damage, early assessments, as JPS had said, was between $480 and $600 million. As the assessments have continued in more detail, we are down to $350 million, which is a huge difference between the original estimate and what the estimate is.
The opposition spokesman on energy, Philip Paulwell, was not excited by the possibility that no interest rate was decided as yet. However, the minister says the finance ministry will begin discussions about the rates for the loan from the consolidated fund soon. CVM News at 7 continues in a moment.
We in this together, hands on hearts spread wide. We know things will get better, working side by side. We in this together, rebuilding homes and lives, no matter the weather. You are not alone.
Sagicor is contributing over $200 million to Jamaica's Hurricane Melissa recovery. We're also standing by our clients. If you're a client in need of support, call 888-SAGICOR.
BCIC is giving up to $5 million in free content insurance.
We've developed a free online calculator. So anybody in Jamaica, any homeowner can go on to BCIC online. You don't even have to be a BCIC customer, and it will give you a building value.
When you update your home's rebuilding cost with our online calculator, you'll get $5 million in free content insurance and up to 12 months to pay your premium.
If you're not insured, go get it now. Better to be safe than sorry.
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winford Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
Thanks so much for staying with us. Continuing the local news, the Jamaica Public Service Company JPS is condemning what it describes as a shocking act of sabotage that plunged several St. Ann communities back into darkness. According to the company, teams conducting patrols discovered that a freshly planted utility pole had been deliberately cut at the base, causing it to topple. This resulted in a sudden outage affecting a number of communities, all of which had only just regained electricity following extensive restoration work.
We at JPS are deeply disturbed by the act of sabotage in Bonham Spring that has plunged recently restored communities in St. Ann back into darkness. Our checks revealed that this unfortunate incident caused a sudden outage affecting the Bonham Hill housing scheme, Hand to Mouth, Refuge Hill, and even the lower White River substation. And these are areas that had only just regained electricity after extensive hurricane restoration work.
Says it's deeply disturbed that anyone would intentionally undermine the company's restoration efforts, particularly at a time when the electricity network has suffered severe damage and crews continue to work around the clock to rebuild. The company says it remains committed to restoring power safely and as quickly as possible, and is calling on the public to partner with the company in safeguarding critical infrastructure.
We want to be very clear. This kind of destruction is reckless, it is cruel, and it not only undermines the tireless efforts of our JPS crews and contractors, but it also puts lives at risk. Acts like these also delay the restart of economic activity, hurting families, our friends, and other loved ones who are desperate to have their power supply restored so a sense of normalcy can be achieved. We are urging all well-thinking citizens to stay vigilant and report any suspicious activity, any vandalism, any sign of sabotage immediately to the authorities so that we can recover faster.
While the incident is the first case of the sabotage on record since restoration began, the company says a number of other factors continue to undermine the restoration process, as unscrupulous individuals continue to pose as JPS workers, soliciting payment from residents for reconnection of electricity, with the most recent report coming out of Guys Hill 2 days ago. Also, motor vehicle accidents continue to cause outages even during the restoration. The most recent incident occurred in Montego Bay, affecting Freeport in the city. We are the accountability mechanism. The Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, JAMP, at Monday's forum held by the National Integrity Action NIA, issued a direct appeal to Jamaican citizens and members of the diaspora to hold the government completely responsible for the allocation of funds and resources for recovery and relief efforts in the wake of Hurricane Melissa. Crystal Williams has more.
Principal Director of the National Integrity Action, Daniel Archer, says the importance of the forum is paramount, as it is the difference between observing and accepting that each and every single citizen has a key role to play.
So when we think about that opportunity for recovery and resilience, we now have to go down the line and ask ourselves, what's the denominator? What's the factor that we're not using as much as we should? And this is it. We're not using ourselves. So I passed the version of saying, what is the government doing? And how it is that they're not doing it, to say, how can I capitalize on my own vision for what I want my community to be?
She outlined the main characters needed for an effective recovery plan. As she provided the who, the responsibility of the Integrity Commission is to outline the why. Meanwhile, the JAMP explains the how. Sasheen Wright Chin, manager of the Corruption Prevention Division at the Integrity Commission, says natural disasters don't only test our infrastructure and disrupt normal ways of life, but they magnify corruption risks.
So according to institutions such as Transparency International and others, natural disasters intensifies corruption vulnerabilities because emergency situations require fast decisions, high resource flows, and sometimes the temporary suspension and/or relaxation of standards and procedures.
Executive Director of the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, Jeanette Calder, insists the government does not necessarily need to be leading the process, as they cannot do it all. In her opinion,
I'm also here to bring a message that says citizens can lead and government can follow.
Inspired by examples from Ukraine and Mexico, Ms. Calder argues Jamaican civil society requires support and accountability from the government rather than permission to hold it responsible.
The citizens and all of us here are going to have to realize that we are the owners of all public assets and resources, not the government of Jamaica. Every road, every hospital, every school that has been built and will have to be rebuilt, for the most part, will be with our money. We own it. We are the owners of all public assets and resources. We are the employers of all public officials. You do not need the government's permission to demand accountability. You do not need to wait on governments to set up the oversight committees. Guess what, folks? We are the committee. We are the accountability mechanism.
Crystal Williams reporting for CVM News.
Meanwhile, Director General, in fact, we'll take that later on, PNP members of Parliament in the West where thousands of Jamaicans have been displaced by Hurricane Melissa, are laying blame at the government for sowing seeds of division in a process. The opposition representatives say the systems lack communication and is woefully inadequate, among other major deficiencies which do not help the purpose of rebuilding for those who matter, the people. More in this report from Curlin Brown.
We're in a crisis situation and the government needs to act in that way. I get the feeling that the government still does not realize that we are in a crisis. But the crisis we're in, we need to understand that people are people. We're Jamaicans and we must treat people as Jamaicans.
How do you go ahead and pick the 100
One by one, the opposition members of parliament laid down the weight they've been carrying for their constituents since the road to recovery from Cat 5 Melissa began to unfold. The scenarios, though similar, each representative batting for their hard-earned position.
I want to address the government's response or lack thereof. It is true that affected constituencies received $10 million. We have done, many of my colleagues have done the math. For housing, it is not adequate. We have a number of houses in Hanover. From my balcony, I am looking at 3 houses that are flat and 5 without roof. The people of Eastern Hanover, they've had to seek comfort living under tarps. That's not good enough. We need help from government. We need ministers to come in and be on the ground as they were before the election. The people of Eastern Hanover, they're demanding your presence. The question I must ask, and the question every Jamaican should be asking, if the allocation on paper is equal, why is help actually reaching our residents so dramatically unequal? Where is the relief going? Why are communities still waiting?
Waiting in this the start of the 4th week since Jamaica the paradise was turned upside down. And with a seemingly stuttering communication system, the media did not escape some of the blame.
The scale of devastation has been systematically underreported and in many cases completely ignored by the media coverage. Every single board house in Eastern Hanover has been affected. Approximately 5,000 houses are without roofs. Every farm in the constituency suffered severe damage. Half of our health centers sustained significant structural damage. Our schools are so badly affected.
All eyes are also on the pace of assessments. Meanwhile, in one of the hardest hit constituencies, Eastern Westmoreland, the Member of Parliament, Dr. Dayton Campbell, is looking beyond the temporary but necessary structures as a solution for the people, where approximately 5,000 houses are totally destroyed.
We want the situation in Westmoreland in terms of land tenureship to be regularized. We put a proposal on the table to move the time period to own government land, to move it from 6 years to 25 years. That's something that the government should immediately take on, right, to ensure that we can give the lands to these persons and that some of them can build their own structures that can withstand hurricane. And the government as well should look at low-income solutions on government lands for these persons. The aim is not to have board houses being rebuilt, because that's an invitation for a second disaster.
The Andrew Holness-led government is now being charged to address an alleged dysfunctional distribution system, which undermines some who are duly elected and gives power to an army led by the Jamaica Defence Force, ministers, and their political operatives who are reportedly outright breaching the laws of the land.
The parliamentary practice, the convention still remains. It is improper to visit an MP's constituency without prior notice. That is a practice that has long been observed. And if it is that the government is now departing from that practice, then we need to know why. Because we're striving towards good governance.
Curlin Brown, CVM News.
Director General of the Jamaica Civil Aviation Authority, JCAA, Nari Williams Singh, has been placed on administrative leave by the organization's board. No reason has been given for the decision. CVM News understands that Mr. Williams Singh, who had been on vacation leave, was scheduled to resume duties on Wednesday. However, a brief memo issued to staff early this morning indicated that the Director General would not be returning as planned. Instead, Deputy Director General Nicole Morgan will continue to act in his stead. Staff members tell CVM News they were left confused by the sudden announcement and even more puzzled by the absence of any explanation from the board. Attempts by CVM News to contact Mr. Williams Singh were unsuccessful as calls to his phone went unanswered. His wife, Trisha Williams Singh, later told CVM News that he has no plans to comment on the matter. CVM News will continue to follow this developing story. The JCAA is responsible for regulating Jamaica's civil aviation industry. We take a break. More to come.
The new KFC Dorito Zinger, a combo that's finger-licking good. The time by KFC.
My name Lionel. And after a hurricane, everybody want them things lined up and them light back quick. You understand that? But power restoration is a process. First, we check the big plants and main transmission lines. If them down, nobody can get power. Then, we restore the essential places. Hospitals, water, airport and such. Next is the major community lines. The one that power hundreds of homes one time. Last, we reach the smaller lines that serve individual streets. Rushing can cause damage or hurt someone, so we follow protocol and keep it solid.
Black Friday starts early at Quartz with a whole week of deals from November 24 to 30 with up to 50% off store-wide. Shop on credit and make your first payment in January 2026. Quartz, bringing value home. Conditions apply.
Issa Schoolboy Football is back. The storm has passed, but the spirit remains. This time it's bigger than football. CVM TV brings you a doubleheader from Waterhouse Mini Stadium. This Friday, November 28, the round of 16 continues with match day 2. In the opening encounter, Woolmer's Boys and Tivoli Gardens face off in a must-win for both teams. Kickoff is at 2 p.m. and Stats and Excelsior clash for a spot at the top of the group in the feature match at 4:15 p.m. Coverage is live and exclusive on CVM TV, CVM Television Jamaica on YouTube, and CVMTV.com. That's the return of the Issa Manning Cup, Friday, November 28. A doubleheader at Waterhouse Mini Stadium. Tivoli Gardens versus Woolmer's Boys at 2 p.m. and Stats versus Excelsior at 4:15 p.m.
Thanks so much for staying with us. CVM Television will be on the road again this Thursday, and this time it's in Cambridge, St. James as part of our continuing outreach to support communities recovering from the devastation of Hurricane Melissa. The CVM family will spend the day on the ground engaging residents, highlighting recovery needs, and connecting affected families with critical assistance. Then join us live from Cambridge at 6 p.m. for Lead Story and at 7 p.m. for CVM News as we bring you in-depth coverage and voices from the community. It's now time for the Business Report with Joel Crosskill.
Lots to share with you in the Business Report today. It's been said that necessity is the mother of invention, a proverb brought to mind during the recent Cygnus Credit Investments Q1 September 2025 earnings call, as the 9-year-old alternative investments platform made mention of the current capital needs facing the nation to fund recovery efforts post-Hurricane Melissa, though reporting strong financial results for the 3 months ended September 30, with total investment income eclipsing the US $5 million mark and net investment income surpassing US $4 million, both quarterly records. Mr. Jason Morris, co-founder, executive vice president, and chief investment officer at Cygnus, spoke in detail about the investment management company's own exposure to Hurricane Melissa by portfolio.
We have 2 portfolio companies in food distribution business with a value of 10.29 million.
In the telecommunications industry, we have one portfolio company. A small figure, 868.3 thousand. In the hospitality sector, 2 portfolio investments, 5.27 million, and in manufacturing, 1 portfolio company, 3.62 million. So in sum total, this comes to 20.1 million, or 12.7% of SCI's overall of SCI's portfolio.
Mr. Morris acknowledged that assistance has been made available to a number of portfolio companies, including working capital support and leeway with interest payments. However, the Cygnus Capital executive admits that other companies within its diversified portfolio have witnessed an uptick in demand.
On the other side, we 7 million or 4.4% of the portfolio companies, obviously these are Jamaican firms, were positively affected by the passage of the hurricane, just because of the type of business that they are in. So they would have seen substantially increased business activities and increased demand for their services to be utilized in the rebuilding and recovery efforts. And many of these have already reached out to us for additional working capital to expand their businesses, to bring in new inventory, new raw material, etc., to monetize on these opportunities.
SCI's Puerto Rico operations also contributed positively, with its subsidiary Cygnus Capital PR LLC delivering record total investment income of US $2.52 million, reinforcing the strength and scalability of SCI's regional private credit platform, according to Cygnus Capital's Chief Investment Officer, who also underscored the efforts the Cygnus Group has made towards the broader national effort of recovery.
We are seeking to raise $375,000 US, of which Cygnus and its affiliate entities, including SCI, will be contributing, or has already effectively contributed $100,000 US from that amount.
The SCI team's ability to garner support for those efforts from among its clientele was a capacity that was celebrated by Beresford Gray, President and CEO of Cygnus Capital, during the launch of the group's Hurricane Relief and Rebuild initiative.
Cygnus, as the largest alternative investment manager in the region, has decided to undertake the Hurricane Rebuilding initiative by partnering with many of our international investors and clients from outside of Jamaica. Those clients include Bahamas Striping, one of our favorite clients, so to speak, from Bahamas, who immediately jump on board and have committed over Jamaican $16 million to the program without asking any questions.
In addition to supporting short-term relief needs in Phase 1, it also forms part of the group's broader goal of funding recovery efforts in particularly vulnerable sectors within Jamaica's most adversely impacted communities.
The second phase of our effort will focus on rebuilding, and rebuilding in a sustainable way. So we'll be working with different agencies to focus on agriculture. How do we get greenhouses back up and producing for our society again? How do we get schools to be repaired, basic schools deep in rural Jamaica? How do we get community centers and clinics repaired? How do we contribute to some of the basic equipment that our hospitals need in Black River, Santa Cruz, and those areas?
An effort made more robust by Atario Mitchell, president of Bahamas Striping Group of Companies BSGC, involved in road construction and repair, asphalt paving, and vertical building construction, who, in making a substantial donation to the cause, said the decision to stand with Jamaica was deeply symbolic for his team.
When we saw the devastation caused by Hurricane Melissa in Jamaica, we knew that standing on the sidelines was not an option. We are proud to announce that Bahamas Striping Group will be donating 16 million Jamaican dollars to the